Hey everyone, welcome to Locked On Lakers for Friday. Brian Kamenetsky and Andy Kamenetsky. Andy, if Russ isn't a Laker next year, where is he going to end up? The odds makers have spoken. That's next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for making Locked On Lakers your first listen of every day, Monday through Friday, no matter how you get your podcasts, where you get your podcasts, always free and always available. And if you subscribe to Locked On Lakers on YouTube, you get it early. Yesterday, you got it like 8 hours early because I made a mistake in terms of setting the little scheduling button. So people really got it early. Want to let you know, too, that Locked On Lakers is brought to you today by Betonline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the games start. And you know what? BetOnline is a great place to start, Andy, with today's show because they have odds out on just exactly where Russell Westbrook might end up if he isn't a Laker. We've spent a lot of time, Andy, talking about the chances of him coming back. It should be noted, they're going to try to trade him. I mean, it's not a guarantee. They're going to try to move the guy.
Yeah, I don't think we can reiterate this enough. The point Brian and I have been trying to make many times over is not that the Lakers are, secretly optimistic about fresh starts with Russell Westbrook. And you know what? If you squint right, this trade not only went better than it seemed last year, the Lakers actually came out ahead. Like that's not the point that we've been looking to make. It's just
if Trevor Ariza had just stayed healthy.
Oh, yeah. No, the fault was pretty much everybody but Russ. Just ask Russ. But there is a realistic chance that they could reach a conclusion that trading Russ and what comes with that and what they would have to surrender in order to make that happen with assets isn't worth the potential long-term damage for a one-year issue. Westbrook's under contract 1 more year, and if they're not going to make the team better, like significantly better through that trade, you can make a very reasonable argument. It's the argument I would make that you are better off sticking this thing out with Russ for a year, even if it hurts LeBron's window and all that stuff, because you don't want to damage the future while not improving the present.
Yeah, that's a bad combination. If you can damage the future while improving the present, I think that is a place people would look. There's actually two things. We didn't talk about this when we were kind of doing our pre-show prep. I was really focused on the Russell Westbrook. This is from our friends at BetOnline. They have the odds out where Russell Westbrook might play if he's not on the Lakers next year, and some of the usual suspects are there. Indiana 3-1, the Knicks 7-2, Oklahoma City 4-1, Houston 11-2. Those are your clubhouse leaders, and we've seen kind of deals that are around all of those, how that would work. There is something in the list above it that they also sent out where Kyrie Irving could end up if he's not on the Nets. The Lakers are 7-1. That might be worth a conversation at some point in today's show, because I know how you would feel about that.
I'll tell you right now, if you ask me, would you trade Russ for Kyrie Irving straight up? My answer is no. Unless it's a 1-year deal for Kyrie, I guess.
Right, because presumably if you do that, it's a sign and trade where Kyrie comes,
but
an extended sign Kyrie.
Right, and I'll tell you right now, I would not in a million years trade Russ for a sign and traded / extended Kyrie Irving. The only way I would work with Kyrie if I really got my way would be like on a month-to-month lease.
Game to game.
Something like that.
Hourly.
Yeah, it's like a it's like a really sketchy apartment that you're just in a bind and you rent out for like a month while you're looking for somewhere better.
He'd be the only player in the NBA where like GMs would have to, Kyrie, I don't mean to make a big deal out of this. You forgot to clock in when you arrived at the facility.
You would need you need Kyrie's parents to co-sign on it.
Right. His hourly would be tremendous. It's not like he wouldn't be making a lot of money. It would just be money doled out on an hourly basis.
Right. The apartment that I'm talking about on 30 days, it's a really upscale apartment, but the terms around it are so sketchy. You're thinking, This just, there's a catch here. There's definitely a catch. And with Kyrie, there are a lot of catches.
Okay. You mentioned it though. Let's entertain the hypothetical. Would you trade Russ for a signed 1 year Kyrie Irving?
Like just an Kyrie opts into his deal, but there's no extension?
Or whatever it is. Yeah. Just where you're only making a 1 year commitment to Kyrie Irving.
Sure.
Because that to me seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah, I would do that just because on paper, he is a better fit alongside LeBron and alongside AD. It will be easy. It will be easier for the 38 games that Kyrie decides he wants to play and doesn't come up with cockamamie, self-important, self-serving reasons that he doesn't want to do it. I'm sure there will be some type of new either vaccine or Illuminati laced reason that he won't play a full slate of games, combined with the actual injuries that he's going to have because Kyrie always has them. He's a better fit alongside LeBron and AD.
Yeah, he's a better player. I mean, Kyrie,
yes,
as irritating as he can be, is still a transcendent offensive player.
He is the best finisher at his size I've ever seen in my life. He's amazing.
Right. And unlike Russ, who is clearly declining, while Russ isn't trash, I think we need to get, that Lakers fans are very frustrated. He's not trash, but he's clearly declining. Kyrie is not declining yet. He's just a lot. 1 year is a no-brainer. I would not want a long-term contract.
Yes, absolutely. I would do that.
All right, I just wanted to ask that because I swear I missed it when I was looking at the emails from our friends from BetOnline. Like, just focused on the Russ part. What's interesting about the Westbrook stuff isn't
it doesn't matter because he's going to be coach of the team next year.
Where does your poll stand on that for people?
Yeah,
Thursday's show. Andy, you wanna recap your radical, perhaps harebrained scheme to get around the Lakers' trifecta of issues?
Well, the way I see it, Brian, and it is a trifecta. It is 3 to be precise. Big picture issues right now. They've got a Westbrook problem. They've got a coaching problem because they need to find one. And they seem to always be in that position of looking. And they also have salary cap issues, Brian. There's a lot of roster concerns for this team. The Lakers have very little wiggle room in no small part because of Russ's $47 million deal that everyone's presuming he's going to opt into. My plan for this, to solve all 3 issues in one fell swoop, Russ opts out of his deal and formally retires, sends in the paperwork to the NBA, explains in a tear-filled press conference that, as much as he had his issues with the way he was handled last season and, the Frank Vogel, all that stuff, he did acknowledge he didn't play very well, and he feels like he is starting to decline with his athleticism, and he's not the player that he wants to be. He doesn't want to play any other way. Therefore, he wants to leave his career while he is still at some type of peak of his powers. And then the Lakers give him a $47 million deal to coach. And this is not, by the way, paying Russ $47 million.
He's going to be the coach. You have to let him really be the coach.
Right. And he's a serious coaching hire. They're not just giving him $47 million to fire him because A, the league will catch on, and B, the Lakers need to be taken seriously as a coaching destination.
This becomes a non-serious hypothetical if you allow that to happen.
Exactly. And I put out a poll at Cam Brothers, would you do this? And I am very pleased to see that as of about 5 hours into this thing, nearly 43% of our followers say yes, they would do this. I'm very excited.
Right. That shows me that 43% of our followers either have a good sense of humor or just want to see the world burn. Yeah. Either way, we have the most interesting followers out there.
Open-minded followers, Brian.
That's right.
Expansive thinking followers.
So 7-1 for Kyrie Irving to become a Laker, but the destinations for Russell Westbrook include the usual favorites. But one team that isn't on the list is a team that a listener sent in an interesting trade proposal for that we want to explore a little bit. I think some people might be surprised by what team this is and whether or not a legitimate argument could be made on their end for actually taking the deal that we have to propose, and we'll do that next.
Locked On Lakers brought to you by Built Bar, and in particular the new birthday cake puffs. Now, just imagine, that awesome sense memory feeling you get when you stick your finger in that tub of frosting, in this case, birthday cake frosting, and you put it in your mouth, and just that flavor adventure you got going. It's amazing. But picture that this is frosting that's actually only 150 calories, and it gets you 16 grams of protein. That is what it is like to eat a birthday cake puff from Built. I just got my box of the birthday cake puffs, and they're pretty cool, man. It's a really interesting, different flavor for them. They are enrobed, as the Built Bar people told us, in 100% white chocolate. It is the first to the best of my knowledge.
I don't see color, Andy.
The Built Bars. Side by side on my piano keyboard.
All chocolate. It's just chocolate to me. I don't see color.
It's also got sprinkles on it as well. And these, again, are protein infused marshmallows. So you can eat healthy, actually enjoy doing it. And they're made with collagen protein, which your body absorbs more efficiently. And it provides tons of health benefits. So go to built.com to get the birthday cake puffs now. Go to built.com, use the promo code LOCKED15, get 15% off your order. Again, promo code LOCKED15, 15% off at built.com.
So a couple quick replies to your poll question, Andy, regarding that. One, this from at Jedi Herald. Brian, take the phone away from your brother.
Too late.
Sorry, it's already out there. This from Ken Rowan. Usually love your takes. Step away from any chemicals you might be putting in your body right now.
Too late.
This last one from Yaya Josh. Now, Yaya Josh seems to be someone who is willing to play ball here. Everything is perfect except Shaq has to be lead assistant, not Terry Stotts. Otherwise, I'm into it. So, like you say, running about 1.5 of every 3 people or something like that.
Dude, it's at nearly 43% of the people weighing in. Like that's almost a coin flip. I'm really excited by this.
It's true. All right. So we mentioned, and by the way, we have some news. Austin Reeves, which we'll try to get to before the end of the show, got a couple votes for the NBA All Rookie team, which is a pretty good achievement for a guy who wasn't supposed to play really on the big club this year. So we'll try to get to that because I do think there's some lessons there that the Lakers can take away from it. Somebody left an interesting comment about a potential Westbrook destination, throwing out a trade deal that on its face probably wouldn't work, but kind of got you thinking.
All right, so this arrived on our Apple show page from Intium73. Does a trade of Duncan Robinson from the Heat for THT, Nunn, and a first-round pick in 2027 make sense for either Miami or the Lakers? Well, it makes a lot of sense for Miami. They're going to jump all over that. I mean, Duncan Robinson, who's, is a shooting specialist, he's currently out of their rotation.
Right. He's been basically bumped out by Max Strus.
Right. And he makes a lot of money. So if the Heat can get THT, former Heat, Kendrick Nunn, and a first-round pick for a long-term deal, guy who's out of their rotation, I'd say
right. Robinson makes, for people to know, Robinson makes $17 million next year, 18 the year after, 19 the year after that, and I want to say it's a $19 million team option. I believe
it is a team option
for the last season in 2025-26.
Right.
So you're on the hook for 3 years of Duncan Robinson at an average of about 18 million per. Right.
So you would agree with me, Brian? Miami would accept this deal?
I think Miami would do that to get all, I don't know how much THT would play for them, but if nothing else, you have smaller salaries that come off your books faster.
Right.
And therefore, yes, it would be a great deal for the Heat. Now, I understand the impetus. You're looking
straight
at somebody
up robbery for the Heat.
Yes. You're looking at somebody conceptually, at least, who could come in and spread the floor. It is worth noting that Robinson had a terrible year this year, which is part of the reason the Heat might move him. He only shot 37% from 3, which on the Lakers makes him Ray Allen. But when you can only do that, and that is all he does is shoot 3-pointers, you need to be in that 45-46% range that he was as a second-year player to have any real value. And he's gotten steadily worse in all 3 of the seasons where he's been a regular rotation member.
But it got me thinking though, Brian, because I don't think that works for the Lakers. It's just
No.
way too much to give up for Duncan Robinson.
You're not getting enough. Right.
Right.
And
But
if Robinson had shot 44% last year and this year also, I would certainly be much more excited at that prospect. But then, of course, Miami wouldn't take him for THT and Kendrick Nunn.
But it got me rethinking, though, a trade that involves Duncan Robinson and these two players that I thought might actually, potentially at least, make a little more sense for both sides. You amend this so it's Duncan Robinson and Kyle Lowry, with the idea being that the Heat, during Lowry's absence in the playoffs, he's been out a while, and Gabe Vincent has filled in, I think, well enough. He hasn't been a star, but he
He's a
is
good player.
certainly
He's a good
right,
player.
and he has not hurt them. Lowry and Robinson for Russell Westbrook. And the Heat take on Russell Westbrook, his 1 year, and all that comes with Russell Westbrook to get off 2 years of Kyle Lowry if they feel like Gabe Vincent can be enough for them, and the long-term money of Duncan Robinson.
They'd have to I'll yes and your way through. They don't, they feel like they can get by without Kyle Lowry, and they certainly look like they're going to, they have the potential to be a finals and even a championship team with Lowry not even playing. So that doesn't look like an issue. I mean, Jimmy Butler is the cultural core of that team.
Right.
And
they've got
Lowry,
guys, Adebayo is an all defensive team player.
They're clear, and they seem to be able to find great players and turn them, everywhere. They've got Max Strus, who replaces Duncan Robinson, and they found, Yurt Seven as a backup center has played really well, and Caleb Martin is a good player, and up and down the roster, they keep finding players who can contribute that don't cost a ton of money. They seem to have resurrected Victor Oladipo. I would love to see what that looks like, if nothing else, because Russ goes to Miami, the ultimate hub of culture.
That is in part what put this into my head, Brian. I'm glad you picked up on that.
Yeah, I mean, it is the ultimate hub of culture. It is Jimmy Butler's culture. It is Pat Riley's culture and all that. And so, if there's anywhere where you think Russ, who, again, as we've discussed on this show, has incentive no matter where he plays to kind of fit in and play ball, because he wants his career to be extended after this year. I could see it financially, because let's say it doesn't work and you just buy him out. Your team doesn't look a whole lot different than it does right now, playing in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Exactly. Again, that is in part what I was thinking about.
Right, Lowry, it should be Lowry did not. Duncan Robinson wasn't good. Lowry, when he played fine.
Right, but he is getting older. He's I believe 36 right now. And you and I are both big Kyle Lowry fans on the court. We really like him a lot as a person. We worked with him on a project several years ago. We really like him. He's become known as a great team culture guy, but he's starting to get older. He's starting to become a little less reliable to be on the court, but he is also, when healthy, a great fit with LeBron and AD.
Correct.
I mean, he's a spectacular fit with those guys. And if Robinson can resume his old form, LeBron and shooters works out.
And, I mean, look, I'm sure Miami is in no hurry to go away from Kyle Lowry, but I think it's honestly, would you do that? Is that a good deal for the Lakers though? Because I'll explain why I'm surprised. I might be slightly surprised that you would entertain this, but I'll explain it next.
Locked On Lakers brought to you by BetOnline, your number one source for all your betting stats and sports info. Find all the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs, and Major League Baseball, as we were just discussing, Brian. Our friends over at BetOnline.net, they've got updates on where Kyrie Irving could potentially be next, where Russell Westbrook could be next. They've got Laker coaching odds always being updated and reconfigured. LeBron keeps getting better odds, which I find really interesting. LeBron has gone from 150 to 1 to be the Lakers' next head coach to 125 to 1.
Yeah,
And
I might have to put like $50 on that.
It's got me wondering what they
might have to.
know
Yeah.
over at BetOnline, but they're no dummies. I feel like they know something. So BetOnline is your continued source for all your sporting wagering information, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. Head to the website today, use your mobile device, learn more about the trends in action.
The most compelling argument that I think you can make for LeBron as player coach is probably the one that if you think the Lakers are just that cheap, right? Because LeBron does he get extra for being a coach? Like, I don't even know how this works anymore. Like, I mean, the player coach thing is so far in the past in every sport. Like, do they have to sign him to a separate contract for his coaching, or does he just coach with his current deal?
Does he have an a la carte? I don't know how this works.
Very simple. Like, I don't even, that's what I'm saying. Like, because I can't imagine LeBron would say yes to that if there wasn't some sort of bonus. We're going to give you much more work, but pay you exactly the same. LeBron ain't no dummy.
Here's where I think it becomes complicated, maybe the only way.
Here's the problem. The problem with LeBron as player coach.
As is my understanding of the way the CBA works in the NBA, you can't restructure contracts like this. Like people always ask us, well, like, if a guy's on a 3-year deal, like, can you
right? You
can't make it more backloaded, front loaded, etc. Once it's in place, it's in place. So I don't think you can restructure LeBron's contract that way. You might have to have him fill out some type of like 1099. It's like
but that's
I don't know.
Totally separate gig. Like, it's not. They're not restructuring his player contract. They're just offering him a coaching contract.
No, it's a very legitimate question.
How much do you think he would demand to do that?
To coach this particular roster?
If I'm LeBron and they say, LeBron, we're really entertaining this, and how much money? Like, I would ask for so much flipping money, because you want to talk about aggravation I don't need if I'm LeBron James coaching this team.
Well, it depends. How angry is LeBron at the GM who constructed this roster? Because he's one of them.
Does Coach LeBron start arguing and fighting with GM LeBron come deadline time? Like, there's all kinds of stuff going on here. Here's the thing about the Lowry. He is not quite as brittle in the sense of, like, he misses just entire seasons or something like that, but he played 63 games this year.
Some of it was, I believe, personal time being taken off. I don't think it was all injury.
Right. 46 last year, 58 the year before, although, I mean, one of those is pandemic season, 65 the year before that, 78, 60. So it's been a while since, 2015, 2016 was the last time he was over 75 games played. Right. He's 36 years old and all that. They would treat him, though, like a guy that they would play, probably 30 minutes a night if possible, and try to just do everything you possibly can to make sure he's healthy for the playoffs.
Yep.
I'm just surprised that, given your reticence about building a team with LeBron and AD, two guys who are hurt, one of the reasons you proposed trading Anthony Davis is that he's not healthy enough to help LeBron, that you would commit to 2 years of a guy who is also old and injury prone, and then, forgetting the Robinson money for a second.
Well, it's not an ideal setup, but this is the situation the Lakers are working in to try to get themselves out of. And one of the things that I did like about this potential methodology is you could do it without giving up any assets. Like, you give up cap flexibility
in this construction, because it is something that, at least financially, you can. I mean, is this something Miami would really entertain? I suspect not. But financially, it's not so ridiculous that, like, you look at it and you say, why on earth would they do that? There is a clear reason they would do it. They're an Eastern Conference Finals team without Kyle Lowry. Robinson isn't in the rotation. They're going to try to move Duncan Robinson this offseason.
Right.
So I in that sense, I actually think it's a much riskier move for the Lakers than it is.
It is in certain respects
for the Heat.
But again, if they're looking to try to fix the roster, fix the Russ problem without surrendering assets, this was just something that popped to mind for me. And yeah, there are those concerns with Lowry's age for sure. And like I said, he did miss some games, I believe, last year for personal reasons as opposed to injury. But injuries have been a thing for him, right? But with Lowry, though, he can be a lower usage player certainly than Russ and thrive. When
Yes.
Lowry plays at his normal level, he's a good outside shooter. He has more utility off ball. He can be a far better like pick and roll, pick and pop, catch and shoot, or pick and pop, catch and shoot threat with LeBron. Working 2-man action with him than Russ would have been. So I'm just picturing possibilities. Is it totally ideal? No, but there's not going to be an ideal way to work themselves out of this issue with Russ. There just isn't.
No, there isn't. I mean, I think, you look, people look at those deals of like Malcolm Brogdon. It really comes down to, if that was something you could do without giving up a pick, would you rather do that or give up a pick to get like Malcolm Brogdon and who is the other person that people talk about in that deal? Buddy Hield.
Yeah, Buddy Hield.
And I would probably rather have Brogdon and Hield and give up the pick.
Well, I mean, Brogdon gets hurt more than Lowry even does.
Yeah, but the flip side is Hield is a more useful and reliable player, I think, than Robinson. He's a better player than Robinson.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he is. Absolutely.
Let's talk quickly about Austin Reeves, who got a couple votes for the All-NBA rookie team. And I mentioned this not as to somehow claim that he should have gotten more than that. First of all, kudos. That is a great accomplishment for Reeves and something that he and the Lakers should be proud of, getting a couple votes for that. The other reason I pointed out is it is, to me, representative of the kind of work the Lakers are going to need to do. If you look at the first team, it's Scotty Barnes, Cade Cunningham, Evan Mobley, Franz Wagner, and Jalen Green. These are all top 10 guys, I think. I don't think anybody in that group was out of the top 10. But then when you get past that, Herbert Jones is on the second team. He was a second rounder. Bones Highland on Denver was a late first rounder. Ayo Dosunmu on Chicago is a late first rounder. Chris Duarte, who was somebody I think a lot of Lakers fans hoped they might be able to get before they traded away the pick on the pace. He ended up with Indiana, was mid first round. And if you go after that, there are guys like, Jose Alvarado got a couple votes, and Cam Thomas got a vote, and Trey Murphy got a vote, and he was late in the first. The Lakers have very little access to talent.
They don't even have a second round pick this year.
No, they don't. And next year they have a pick, but it's subject to a pick swap. So like, let's say, if they suck, there's nothing good comes out of that. And if New Orleans sucks, nothing good comes out of that. I guess the only decent result would be both teams suck. So the Lakers still get to keep a high pick. They're going to have to do things like nail late first round picks, buy their way into the second, like spend money, Andy, and buy their way into the second round aggressively. And all that. If they want to have players on this team who are, young, can be signed to deals that are team friendly, that they might be able to develop, like this, they're going to have to nail it. And I think this list of players shows that those guys are out there for teams that do a good job. I mean, there are some decent players late in the first into the second, if the Lakers can get in there and do the work. And
here's the good news. This is where the Lakers are strongest by far as an organization. They are really good at this. I think they are, I would say over the last decade, they've been top 5 in the league when it comes to picking guys either early in the draft, late in the first round, second round, undrafted guys, finding legit NBA. Oh yeah, their batting average of people that we have selected that turn into real live, legitimate or better NBA players is excellent. And if you look at the guys that they drafted early, like Julius Randle, Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, there have not been a lot of, okay, well, you clearly should have taken that. Like Jason Tatum over Lonzo is really the only glaring example of, okay, there had been a lot of hype about Lonzo. I mean, beyond just what LeVar generated. Like Lonzo was the point guard at UCLA. You're going to get a lot of attention for that. Beyond the Tatum instead of Ball thing, you don't look at their first round picks and find a lot of glaring misses. Like maybe there's a guy that went, like they picked D'Angelo Russell at 2, and there's a guy that like at 10 or 12 would have been better. Fine, but that means
Russell's an all-star.
Right, but it also means that 8 or 9 other
Right.
teams missed.
I look at it. I look at these things.
They've
as, you
done
know, like,
really
again,
well.
Lonzo versus Tatum. Okay, contextually, Lonzo made a lot of sense, and B, Lonzo's a good player. Like if
Yes.
his biggest issue as a pro has been health, not
Yep.
performance.
No,
Especially now
Lonzo's
that
good.
he's able to shoot a little bit more. He's not perfect, and Tatum is obviously better. But you don't look at Lonzo and go, that is a bust. He's not a bust. That would
No.
be, he's a really quality NBA player.
There's nobody reasonably behind Julius Randle that you look at and say, well, they clearly should have taken that guy instead of Randle. Like
Right.
they're good. They're really good at this.
So, but like the days of being able to buy cheaply, sneak into the second round are over. Like, that doesn't happen anymore. Second round picks are coveted. And if you want to get into the second round, it is a costly endeavor. The Lakers have not necessarily been known for spending on that kind of stuff. And they're going to need to fix that. I want to talk next week about Reeves just a little bit more in the context of, like, now that he's kind of on the radar, what do you think he becomes? But we can save that for next week. Again, though, congratulations to Austin Reeves for landing a couple votes, because that, as an undrafted free agent, is really impressive. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you go to get the podcast visually and often earlier than the audio product. Everybody have a great weekend. We'll see you Monday.